recruiters don't want to be called recruiters. It's because they're looked at like used car salesmen. And it's because there's a lot of dirty stuff that happens in the industry. And we're just trying to bring trust and transparency back.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And we're going to have a moment of silence here because, all right, whatever that was going off in the other room ain't going off anymore because I'm the only one home. You know, when you hear those funny sounds, folks, and they sound abnormal, pull the car over and, might want to do a quick walk around. It might save you a couple $1,000. Like if you hear a big clank, 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 clank as you're driving down I-10 at about 80 miles an hour and you hear oh, I know what that is. Holy crap. That's our new gutters.
Nice.
Well, you got one of them rain chain things that makes all the noise?
No, but it's making noise because we got the extreme gutters here.
Oh, there you go.
Extreme.
They make them out of metal so they're nice and loud.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, you ain't owned a house in very long if you're asking if my gutters are made out of metal.
Oh, it'll be funny though. You can probably sell those suckers.
Yeah. Well,
that copper. I was gonna say that copper would look damn nice, even though it wouldn't last very long.
Now, I was talking with somebody about that the other day. The expense of putting up copper gutters. Damn, folks. If you got that kind of, capital flex, then you should be calling up our guest today and good friend Ryan. we like. I don't know why you would call him. Probably just to write him a check.
I'll take
it.
With you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. Copper gutters, right? Is that what we're installing? Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, there we go. So Ryan, man, what has been going on? I feel like we've been hanging out because we've had a couple of iterations and jump starts and restarts, and now here we are. I thought we weren't going to bring that up, that I just couldn't get the system running a week ago, and we had to reschedule this whole thing because of my ineptitude. But that's okay. You're the one that said that. I did not. Just to be noted, and if anybody wants to check the record, we can rewind. Yes, I did not say that because I try to be nice to our guests most of the time.
Yeah.
So
try.
Yeah. Well, in Camden, I don't know what. Sometimes our guests come in patterns of three. We had Reese on the other day, and then we had Tracy, and now we got Ryan.
You having too much fun? You quitting on me?
No, man, no. I find it, the stars aligning and things falling into place. So I find it really interesting in this string of folks who help people find what they want to do and match them in that role. And what was the and I kind of said it without saying it, recruiter, because most recruiters don't like to be called that. So I was trying not to. So you can call me out on that one this time.
I'm an anti-recruiter all day long. Like if you go to my LinkedIn all day long, I just poo-poo all over recruiters. So that's no, we can deflect that one easily.
Well, what was the problem set that got you into that world of helping people find that right place or helping the place find the right people?
Yeah, it came from a pain point that I had. So my last company was called Hunt a Killer, and that sounds like a very strange brand. And it was an immersive game, an adult tabletop game. So essentially,
I'm sorry, but I was going. Our good buddy Sam, former Navy SEAL, his his tagline for recruiting was hunters of people, terrorist hunters in the war and people finders now, or something like that. So, yes,
little different model.
There's something with that. There's something with those types of thieves. But that, like the whole thing is an expert recruiter. So this like competency of expert recruiting is truly a competency. And I think all too often you've got companies that are like, I'm an operations manager, I'm a sales and marketing leader, and I'm also a recruiter. And the problem or like the fallacy with that is that there are people that have their entire lives done nothing but recruiting. And there's an expertise that's built. And part of that is intuition. Part of that is how do you actually hunt and how do you hunt effectively? Another part of that is how do you run some sort of proven process? And so what I saw at my last company is that we couldn't afford expert recruiting until we were around 5 to 10 million. And because the reality is like most organizations can't jump from $100, $200 a month for a LinkedIn or Indeed ad, all the way up to $40,000 to find a single hire. And so like, this was really born out of a pain point that I had with my last company where like, we couldn't yet afford expert recruiting, but we knew that that would provide us some sort of competitive advantage. And so when I sold that business last January, I called the best recruiter. Well, there's a longer story here. I won't get into all of that. But, a business coach came to me and said, like, what charges you up? What fires you up each morning? For me, it's people. But we spent $1 million in recruiting. I was like, this is the stupidest industry to ever exist. And so I called the best recruiter that we ever used. And I said, hey, I'm going to launch a recruiting firm. Do you want to join forces? And that's how this all came about. Is just to your earlier comment of like recruiters don't want to be called recruiters. It's because they're looked at like used car salesmen. And it's because there's a lot of dirty stuff that happens in the industry. And we're just trying to bring trust and transparency back.
How did you go about finding the mechanism that you wanted to change? Because like what you're talking about there, if you look at a market like that, it's like, hey, they only serve here. These folks, there's a gap here. There's usually a reason for that gap, some sort of economic reason, or regulations or something. There's usually a reason why there's the gap there. How did you find that and then work your way around it?
Yeah, and we've kind of like my superpower, and I don't have many of them. Like I've never been an expert in any of the product or services. So I am not a career recruiter. I am not the one that's a part of recruiting operations. So I'm not on the one doing the interviews or finding amazing humans. I was not the one putting together the tabletop games and developing police reports and case files. My company before that unfortunately went bankrupt, but it was an obstacle race. And so we were in the first zombie infested 5K obstacle course race, but I didn't put.
I remember when those hit the big time.
Yeah, that was us. That was us. Like we grew that. We went from one event to 13 events across the nation in 2012. And then we went to 23 events and bankrupted. That's too long for this show. A lot of painful lessons learned on that. Trying to keep a TSSCI with a bankruptcy on my credit report was a trial in and of itself. That was interesting. Anyhow, we don't have to go there. But to your point, Cam, is Cam okay? Or do you?
Yeah, Cam's good. Oh yeah.
Okay. So the thing here is like my superpower is like finding opportunities and being able to identify pain points, putting ideas out into the universe, and then kind of following the signals to figure out what product market fit means. And what you have in the industry is a broken business model. And so, what do we do well? We do recruiting well. We do business model well. We do all of these things really great. But one of the aspects that we looked at very hard was the business model in and of itself. And so what you have with contingent recruiters is you have a contingent recruiter that'll come in, they're charging you 30%, and that's contingent based upon the placement. And so essentially what they're doing is they're working for free. And so they are working for 5 different companies, and maybe out of that 5, they'll get 2, maybe 3 placements. So basically half the companies get free, and the other half of the companies that pay the premium tier are subsidizing all the other companies that didn't hire any of the candidates. So like, I'm not a genius. Like this was a very simple problem to solve. Like we charge for every client that comes through the door, but we don't charge double the cost we do great work and we do it at 30 to 35% of others. And we're able to do that because when we do great work, people come back and we keep finding great people. But long-winded, like the business model has been one of the easier things to solve. And I just think we came up with a unique method for it.
So how do you find those great people? What's that differentiator that helps you find them?
Yeah, good question. And this is, what's interesting is that we'll say good recruiters and above, because there's a lot of snake oil sales people out there. But the good recruiters that are using good platforms, everybody's pulling from the same thing. So like the reality is back in the day when maybe 30% made sense, you would go to a recruiter and you would say, I'm looking for an operations manager in manufacturing. And the reason you were paying a high price point is because they would open up their filing cabinet and they would have hundreds of resumes of people that they know, people that are in their network. And like, that's why you were paying a premium. The reality is
book of business type of thing then, right?
That like, yes, recruiters had a black book, not just for companies and BDs, but they had a book just full of people that they knew that would be great placements. The reality is today, everybody has the same book. Like if you're a good recruiter, you're probably using some sort of platform that gives you access to millions and millions and millions of people. And so everybody's paying the same amount of money to lease these types of platforms and have access to the information. So we have a candidate pool of tens of millions of people that we can pull from. And then it's just the old fashioned way. Like once we find somebody that meets the requirements, we're picking up the phone, we're calling them, we're texting them, we're emailing them. And basically, we've now turned from hunters into salespeople because what we're doing is now we're selling them on the opportunity, because now we have to convince somebody that wasn't looking for a job, because we're not just posting on job boards and looking at thousands of resumes. We take a targeted approach. We find the exact criteria and the people that match. And then the old-fashioned way, we're now in hunter mode, and we're trying to sell them on the opportunity to come through and run our process.
Talking about, and Dad, you kind of referenced we've had a couple of these shows, so these are later iterations of the same kind of question we've been asking. But the thing that always fascinates me when it comes to recruiting and trying to slot people into a team, whether that's in business or anything else, there's always those like X factors, those intangibles of personality that really are what makes the team gel. But it's really freaking hard to select for, especially if you're going through like self-reported data and them just answering questions and just smiling and yes sir at everything you're saying because they want a job. There's a little bit of a funky piece to that. Could you talk some about how you try to account for that variable?
Yeah, that's the biggest variable. Like the one thing that, and it's even harder. So we primarily focus on sales roles. And so you want to talk about people that are good at selling themselves. It's salespeople. Like they may not be able to sell a damn thing from your company, but they can sell themselves through an interview process. And so you have to be incredibly efficient at being able to weed through the ones that are just kind of full of BS and the ones that can actually hit the ground running. And there's a lot of ways to do this. But one of the things that you just brought up, and this is going to make me sound like an EOS salesperson, and I'm not affiliated with EOS in any respect, but the entrepreneurial operating system and the book Traction had a very significant impact on my life. So we talked a little bit about the bankruptcy. Like the biggest change between that company that went from $0 to $8 million and bankrupted, and Hunt a Killer that went from $0 to $55 million with an exit last year, the difference is I had implemented EOS. The difference is I was in Vistage. And so like I had these things that help provide a framework to how to think, how to operate, how to make decisions. One of the things that we focus on are companies that operate on EOS or some sort of business operating system, because companies that have some sort of framework know what their core values are. And if there's one thing that I've learned over the last 10 years is that hiring somebody based upon their resume, it's pretty easy. You look at it, does the resume meet the requirements? Bingo. How many bad hires I've made off of like they've just hit the requirements? It's because we weren't looking at the human. Like you need to understand what are the core behaviors, what are the core values of that human, and do those core behaviors and core values meet the company? And a good example of this is like Tesla and Apple versus Zappos. So Zappos, you join, it's a shoe company. They were acquired by Amazon. It's service forward. Everybody comes into the office and they cheerlead. They've got balloons. It's their thing. That culture compared to Tesla culture is like you come in, you work, you grind, you give everything you have for 80 hours a week. Neither one is right or wrong. But there is a certain human that will succeed in one and fail in the other. And that's what has to be done through the diligence, is understanding what makes that human tick and will that fit this organization. So yeah, I 100% agree. It's the hardest thing to do, and it's also the most critical.
Do you have the word I always like to use for this is like buckets to put folks in? Like, do you have any idea of what some of those buckets are, just to kind of share with folks? Of like, hey, like you mentioned, it's like you're the grind, the 80 hours a week. What comes to mind is I'm thinking of old teachers I had that people hated, and I was like, oh, he's just a football coach. I like this guy. Like, and it's like there's a personality quirk there. Could you talk some about what those buckets would be?
I think probably there's two ways to kind of think through that. I think the one thing is like, it has to do with the core values. And so if we were to provide any buckets, generally an organization has 3 to 5 core values. And so what we're thinking about throughout those core values is we're structuring questions, and consistent questions, like questions that extract what makes that human tick. And we're aligning that with the core values of the organization. And so I would say like those buckets are probably different based upon the organizations that we work with. The other thing to note, though, and this is just like I don't know if it's just like it's just something that we've learned. There's this weird correlation that we have found between people that have been in something competitive throughout their life. So if it were the military, if it were collegiate sports, even if it were like they were a part of a chess club. Hopefully you don't have chess club. I feel like I just totally shit on those people. Hopefully there's no chess club. I was in
the second grade chess club, I think. Didn't do well.
Dad pulled him out when he got back from deployment.
You did what?
I love there's this really weird, strange correlation behind like the people that succeed and like the hunters and the people that like can excel in roles, and having some sort of history of like adversity that's built that resilience early on.
Sorry, I was still laughing about my joke. Lost my train of thought because there's a couple of other derivatives about remember that hamster you had? Well, it may not have
it didn't run away?
Gone to a friend's house. Just saying. What do you? I was thinking about this because I always joked about this. When you have a job, it's easier to get a job. And my joke is that when you have a girlfriend in middle school, high school, it's easier to get another girlfriend because all of a sudden you're Mr. Popular because you got a girlfriend. Yep. What's the reality of that as a recruiter that you found? Recruiting people into roles.
This is a hot button topic. I had a post on this on LinkedIn a few months ago, and I was basically like, I was speaking to a very specific market or a very specific audience, and it blew up. And I understand why it blew up because this is a touchy subject. Here's the reality. Your next best hire is probably already employed. And I realize there's outliers there. Like, someone may have taken time off to be with the family. They may have done this. They may have done that. I will tell you, even and I've been through layoffs, like, and not happy, not proud. It's not, these aren't like high moments, but I've been through layoffs. And I will tell you, I have never, not once in any of my layoffs, have I laid off my rock stars. Like, I will find new positions for the A+ players. It's not that we didn't let good people go, because there was certainly good people we had to let go, but I will not let go of the studs in that case. And that's just the reality. And so like when people are out and they think they're doing recruiting, and so let's say an organization is like, we need to hire for X, and they say, okay, great, go post that on Indeed. The hundreds, if not thousands of resumes that you're getting are people that have the time, the capacity, and are actually hunting. What we want to find are the people that are too busy being well compensated and just killing it for their company, that like they're not on job boards daily or weekly. Like we have to go find those people. And like, I get why this is a hot button topic and people don't want to hear it. Even my son's like having a tough time finding a job. And like, the reality is like, if you're trying to find a job today, you should be networking with hiring managers. You should be networking with recruiters. You should not be just posting your resume into a sea of thousands that are already hit that quick apply. But anyhow, I don't know if that answers your question, but like the best are normally already employed and well compensated.
I 100% agree because, back in my government contracting days, I used to joke that, or laugh at the fact that the government would require us to submit resumes with the proposal that, Camden and Ryan, or here's our two program managers, Camden and Ryan, and then not award us the contract for, 6 months on a good, nice, smooth thing, 6 months. Well, if Camden and Ryan are worth a shit for me to hire them, they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
100%.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, then how do you get them out of that? If they're in that role that they're performing and, let's say their satisfaction rate is in the positive category, how do you pull them away?
Yeah. Well, and that's the magic, right? Like that's when I always thought like recruiting was just looking at resumes and having a few interviews. I was like, oh, this is easy. We got this. And that wasn't it. And like the reality is expert recruiting is hunting. And then like once you actually find the people, then it is sales. And so like what do? We put together, so we start with this 90-minute kickoff call. And we're asking a whole bunch of questions like, let's see your accountability chart. Let's understand your vision, mission, values, all of the things like where are you today and where are you going? And the reason for that is because behind the scenes, we're creating marketing materials, sales materials for your job. So like once we're able to like get through and have a candidate on the line, like then we're sending the professionally put together sales materials to convince them. Because the reality is if someone's not looking for a job and we're like, hey, our process is 3 interviews, like now run our process. And also once you're done our process, now you've got to run their process. Like we have to sell them to take the time. And that happens in a lot of different ways. Like some of it's sold on culture. Like some people are like, listen, I've been in this, call it a sales manager. I've been in this sales manager role now for the last 7 years. I know I'm ready for a director of sales, but like this organization hasn't promoted me. What we're trying to understand in that first 30-minute call is what drives that candidate. Are they driven by compensation? Are they driven by responsibility and title? Like what drives them? And then that's what we're starting to put into the pitch at that point. A lot of times this requires a second conversation with our client. So like, let's say someone's happily employed and we talk to them and they are stuck on compensation. They're like, I think I should be making 120. I'm only making 90 where I'm at. And you're telling me this is 100,000. That's not worth a jump. Well, then we would take that back to the client and we would say, hey, we found your rock star. When you talk to him, like you're going to be blown away. But we're going to have to adjust this comp if we're going to get further downstream with them. So I would say it's case by case dependent, but first it's understanding like what are the motives, like what drives that human, not what are their core values. That's an interview that's yet to come. We're still trying to convince them just to have those interviews. But once we understand their drivers, then we can start to key in on those items and convince them to come through the funnel.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this because I want to get into what I would call the moral area of it. Because I do think there's an interesting piece. We talk about with leadership development of building a leadership pipeline to your business. And people always say, well, why would I want to invest in Ryan if Ryan's just going to leave? And our response to that usually is like, hey, it's nice to grow. I talk about it as a family tree, right? Hey, Ryan's over there. He's doing great. We helped him along the way. That's awesome. That all being said, when you're talking about what you're talking about right there, now I'm thinking, all right, they call Ryan while he's still working here, and now he's going somewhere else. That does feel a little bit more attacking or whatever. It feels a little bit more negative with it. What are you saying, Dad?
Poaching.
Poaching. Not hunting, it's poaching. There you go.
Yes.
But I would love to hear your take on that because that that is a factor, of course, as for all these other businesses out there. I love the idea of developing people to let them go somewhere else, but also like, what if I need them for 6 more months or something?
Yeah. Well, and that's, so like, I'm going to give you both sides of the equation. From us internally, let's start with this. What I believe is that before anybody puts a job posting out, and we recommend this to our clients, even during the discovery call, the first thing we ask is, now that you've understood that you have this requirement, is there anybody inside of your organization? Because if you've got a killer inside of your organization, you should find paths for them to grow. And if that means investing, whatever it is, taking risks, like every time, bringing new people into the enterprise, it's like introducing a foreign object into your body. Like it's going to reject it or it's going to be magic. Let's hope, and we help hedge those bets where it's magic. But the reality is, like, there's a lot of risk that's introduced. And so the first thing that companies should do is look inside of the organization. I'll give you our philosophy is, like, we build and train everybody, because we believe that if we create a culture in which there is upward mobility and that we train people, we invest in people, and the investment's real. Like, we invest into certifications. We invest into something like Vistage. So Vistage is anywhere from $500 a month up to $2,000 a month. Like, we invest heavily into the education and career development. And our whole philosophy is, if we continue to invest and create a culture where people can grow, then why would they want to go anywhere else? Mm-hmm. That's my personal philosophy. Now, on the recruiting side, we'll poach anybody anytime, especially on behalf of our clients, because that's the name of the game. And like, it's one thing that everybody does. If you want to excel as an organization, like, you should probably go hire your competitors like Rockstar, and they will help kind of take you to the next step. The only reason somebody will change is because there was an incentive there. And so, like, if that place has a great culture, they're well compensated, there's nothing we can say on that call. And that's why, we're not talking about 100% hit rate on convincing people. If that organization takes care of their people, good to go. But I promise you, there's 10 others that don't, and we're going to go find a stud somewhere.
Oh, yeah. And you read about it. I mean, I wish I could remember the companies. I want to say one of the bigs, like a Google or somebody, bought a company and pulled them in to be their CTO. I mean, it's probably the incentive and their stock options, and there's all kinds of things.
I know what you're talking about. That was last week. There was Google with some big AI company. Yeah.
I mean, I was also thinking about the poaching. That's why the NFL fines teams when they talk to coaches before they get the authorization, because you're not allowed to. That's one of the things the NFL established years ago.
Yep.
Because of how they're organized, but no other industries are are fining you for poaching. Have you, on the negative side, staying in the poaching realm, have you felt the repercussions either in your business, Talent Harbor, or your client's business when you grabbed that rock star, VP of ops and put them over, moved them from Ford to Acme Bricks?
Yeah. I can speak to my last company, Hunt to Killer. When we hit the Inc. list, everybody celebrates this whole idea of hitting the Inc. list. The minute that we hit the Inc. list, like, two things happened. One, for some reason, every state government started looking at us from a sales and use tax. And so we went through, we hit the list and we automatically had 25 audits. We're like, what the heck is this? So number one. Number two, people came for our talent, and not just came for them. We had other CEOs when we hit the list, we're probably like a $40-ish million company. And I had other CEOs calling our sales and marketing talent, trying to poach them. One got poached, and yeah, that hurt. He was a key person for us, and that hurt a lot. And then I wish nothing but terrible things on that other company. And so yes, it does hurt. And I think you have to be thoughtful and strategic if you're going to go down this path. Meaning that, if your buddy Bill down the street who also has a roofing company, let's stay away from Bill's company. You want a relationship there, that's going to cause some rifts. what we're really looking at is like, we're looking at adjacent companies. We're looking at companies that may be like the next town over. And this is specifically with home service companies. But like the minute that you truly like start poaching from like your neighbor's company, that could create some issues. And now it's just going to create this thing. And to your point of like some of these bigger companies, I read an email last week-ish, and it was like dug up from Steve Jobs from like 15 years ago. I don't know if it was Adobe, but he basically sent an email to the CEO. We'll say it's Adobe. No, you know who it was? It was Microsoft. Mm-hmm. He wrote an email to the other CEO and was basically like, we all had this like secret handshake where we're not going to poach talent. I heard that you're poaching talent. If you want to keep it up, just know that that's open game. And evidently like it stopped at that point. So long-winded to your answer, like I have seen the repercussions. I've experienced them. They're tough. That's kind of business. Last week, a company bought a supplier and like cut all the other companies out. Like that's business. But yeah, it's tough. And you just have to be strategic and thoughtful about it.
Well, it reminds me of a philosophy when I was coaching rugby. I had a club sport, and I just adopted the philosophy of winners recruit winners. And, the teams that were struggling were losing. They weren't winning. And you got to figure, and same, you can look at other sports, not just our little small high school league, but I mean, universities, big time football. It's a lot easier to recruit blue chippers when you're a national title competitor than it is when you're the also participated in the SEC team.
That's exactly right. And all that plays, right? Like I think one of your earlier questions was like, how do you make that compelling? Like if the company is known for having a terrible culture and it's got terrible Glassdoor reviews and all, like that becomes kind of an uphill battle. So I 100% agree there. Like you have to have some of the magic already inside of your enterprise to go attract other A players.
Talking about attracting those folks, I would love to hear any sort of trends or patterns you've seen. Like Dad, you always make the joke about the kegerator in the break room, the ping pong tables, and all that kind of stuff. What have you seen out there, Ryan, that is like actually doing a good job of attracting people and attracting top talent?
Yeah, compensation, benefits, yes. This is what I've seen from personal experience. I have had a very high success rate of like finding incredible humans to come into our companies and do great work. And it's because we feel that we don't look at ourselves as recruiters. Like we look at ourselves that we're making some of the biggest impacts in someone's life, and we're doing so in a positive way. Like we are changing lives and we are providing opportunities. And so I think the biggest differentiator is there has to be a mission above making money. Like it has to be a big vision, and there has to be validated growth behind whatever that vision is. And like, that's what we see, or anyhow, I'm speaking from personal experience, but that's what I've seen that's attracted people to our businesses, regardless of which one over the last couple of decades, is it's like, do we have a big mission that's not just about making money? And are we actively growing? Because it's like, one is like, oh, I can get on board for that. And then if it's got this like FOMO angle, if there's actual sustainable growth and people just want to join to be a part of the journey.
With that, sorry, one follow-up on that. Yeah. Talking about the importance of having that mission, the vision, something exciting like that. I know that this is a while ago. I remember we talked about the stat of it's like a 15% boost in pay if you have a strong why, something like that was the study. It makes you think of the old things with like blockchain and all that, where it's like you put blockchain in your business plan, you go up 10% in value. It's like, because I use that as an example because what happens once that article goes out? People like us go, hey, see, that's why you really need to care. You really need to be about it. You can't just talk about it. Well, every business out there who does just want to talk about it, now they know the things that they need to say in order to sound like they have the great mission, the great vision, all that kind of stuff. What do you make of that aspect and trying to like weed that out? There's this funny thing where it's like once it becomes standard, then the crappy businesses that we all want to get away from, they start faking their way into that. What do you make of that landscape there?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a doozy of a question. I mean, it goes back to like everybody just putting AI behind their domain name or screen name just to get whatever multiple or whatever
AI here at Tribe.
Yeah, I mean and some of this might be on like the candidate. So for us, like we wouldn't take clients like that. Like the clients that we work with, we are also very selective. Like because the reality is if we're taking clients that don't have their stuff together or are faking it to make it, we're not going to be able to find great people. And then we're just doing a disservice. And like, if our big vision is like helping people and putting the right people in the right seats, then we're not doing any good kind of in this world. And so we would be selective about that. From a candidate standpoint, I think there has to be a certain amount of diligence that happens as you're going down this stream. It's hard to talk to. Here's one thing. So there's this book. I thought I had it on my desk, but basically this guy did this analysis. And just like good to great, looked at X amount of companies and found this common factor. There's this guy that's gone out recently and partnered with Inc. And over a 5-year period, he looked at all companies that grew greater than X that had raised zero money. And his study was to try and figure out what happened there. Why were these companies different than all of the rest? And this is very anecdotal. But one of the things that he found is that the companies, every single one, 100% of the 25-ish companies that like hit this criteria had their core values, their vision, and their mission on their website. And I realize that sounds a little anecdotal, but I'll tell you, a company that is investing into the copy and an extra page on their website and cares that much about advertising who they are, I would say that's a unique differentiator. So long-winded, I think there's some diligence that can be done, but there's little things that you can look for to kind of get an understanding there.
Well, I'm a huge proponent of being out there, sharing what your values are, because it has a repel and attract capability is really what it does. Is if I don't like that as a value, well, then I'm not going to go even look at that company, right? I mean, that's why it's such an important thing. And companies that don't are either lazy or shitty.
Or to add a layer to that, take a line from Tracy last week, or they are just the cash grab and they are okay with the cash grab.
Yeah,
leave them over there. They can have that area over there.
You're right. You're right. How quickly can I get to 5 years to exit?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we've had a few of those folks on the show too.
Yes, we have.
My exit plan is to grow this business to X by 5 years and sell it. Okay, thanks for being honest. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We need businesses that do that, and a lot of folks do. You reminded me of something that I talk with a lot of my senior clients about in the aspect of how do I start, or what's the timeline? There's the phraseology I was looking for. What's the timeline that I need to be looking for to hire, and we'll say a key person and an executive, because I think there's probably two different timelines in your mind. Can you help us with that planning factor?
Yeah, it's so funny. Before you even said that, I was gonna be like, "Well, it depends. Are you looking for an executive or like a manager type?"
I've been around the block a couple of times.
You knew it was coming. So for us, I mean, one thing that we're proud of is we're able to, our time to hire average for this year is 48 days. I would say that is pretty fast. Probably a better average is 2 to 3 months. And that's for kind of like middle tier and below is 2 to 3 months. And that's because like everything from truly drafting that requirement, because I think all too often people are like, oh, I need to hire. What is it? Or let's use business development representative. Okay, great. Do you have a job description? Oh, let me just go grab one that's on Google or put it into ChatGPT. That's not like, holy crap. If everything starts with the foundation of what do we need, and what you just did was rip off someone else's, like that's what they needed. That's not what you need. And so like it takes time to really think through like, what are the requirements of this role? What is this person going to be responsible for? How are we going to measure success? And our advice is all of that stuff should be in the job description. So on average, 2 to 3 months. If you're looking for an executive, I really think you're 5 months plus. And when I think about an executive, like, I mean, it's taken us 6 to 9 months before. I think our CFO hire at Hack was about 6 months. And that's just the reality, because you want to be even more careful of bringing someone through at that level. So you want to have multiple conversations. When we used to bring executives into Hunt a Killer, like I would have dinner with them. If we could, we would also bring our partners or our spouses into it, because you can learn so much from that. There's a funny joke of like ordering the wrong food or having the waiter bring the wrong food to see what their reaction is. If you want to do those things, those are all great. But basically, like before you bring an executive in that's going to have a seat at the table and be making major decisions and have very high influence, you want to be absolutely sure. So I'm usually a long-winded person. That was definitely long-winded, but 2 to 3 months and then 5 to 6 months plus on exec.
Hey, long-winded answer. That's why God made podcasts. So you're all right. With that, talking about the hiring schedule, there's one thing you kind of hinted to with some of your ventures of bringing on those folks and what they did for you and your growth. I think there's an interesting debate there of, we almost want to reach like 120% capacity until we fill that 20%, right? We want to grow to the point where it's like, okay, we have to hire somebody slotted in. That's tough on the team. That's tough for everyone. Everyone's doing extra work, working overtime, all that kind of stuff. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the logic of it's like, well, if I just hire Ryan right now, it's like, yeah, it's a gamble, but he's going to change the freaking game for us. Where do you land on that spectrum of logic there?
People might not like this. I'll start with this. It depends on the role. So is it a revenue generating role, or is it call center is such a terrible way to put like the operations department.
It's either direct bill or overhead. We could play that.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah. If it is direct bill, then like I'm probably on the left side of that spectrum where we're nowhere near capacity. We're just looking to generate additional revenue. And like we're probably in like the 80 to 100% capacity, thinking that they're going to go bring stuff in for us. On the other side, we're at that 120. And this isn't like an ideology I hold from like reading books. This is pain that I have experienced. And so I'll give you if you build the right culture, you will have a certain amount of resiliency that's built into that culture. So for instance, one of the things that my team meets, we're only 10 people at this point. We're still growing, but we meet every single Friday and we go over our core values and we talk about things that are happening. And every single Friday for the last 4 weeks, what I have talked about is we've gotten to a place where there's going to be some dramatic growth and it's going to get bumpy. And what I'm asking from you is a little understanding and flexibility for us to figure out where these bumps are and how we fill in these holes. And if you've built the right culture to kind of lean on that resiliency, I think there's a certain amount of understanding that's given, because I've seen the opposite spectrum. I've seen the opposite where at Hunt a Killer, we went from 25 to 50 million in a single year and we had 0 headcount added. And like, that's crazy town. And I didn't do that on purpose. We were going through the pandemic. It was very challenging to like just get our bearings straight. But I said, listen, we get through this year, we'll go on a hiring spree. We got through the year and we're like, great, we're going to go from 50 million to 100 million this year. So what did we do? We went out and we hired to that 100 million number. Did we hit 100 million? Not even close. So what happened? That incredible pain. So because I've experienced that pain, I would much rather stress the team out based upon so much demands for the services or products and then back into that relief than go and destroy a culture by like doubling headcount and then going through rifts. And now you like, it doesn't matter from personal experience. It does not matter how resilient your culture is. The minute you go through any type of layoff, trust is out the door. It doesn't matter what core values you chanted. It doesn't matter how much everybody believed in the mission. Like something happened and now there's a pretty big degradation in trust. That takes years to recover.
Yeah. I was in one of those companies that when I started, it was top notch, probably the highest rated culture and gratitude of being part of it in the entire city. And within a year, lost a significant contract and, pink slips. And it culture just spiraled down and never recovered. They were eventually acquired by another contractor, and most of the folks that I knew that I would have a beer with are no longer there, just because of that culture change, which really is what I love to talk about between. I just drew a blank on your business. Not this
Allen
one.
Harbor.
No.
Oh. Hunt a Killer.
Oh, Hunt a Killer.
Hunt a Killer.
Gosh, you're not in the algorithm I am. I've been getting the ads for years.
Yeah.
The Hunt a Killer, that growth, and then now you sit on the outside looking in, because you touched on this really briefly, but I'd like to discuss this a bit more, and that is the bringing in people and how a person, no matter how much you put them through the filters, still changes. It changes the team. Sorry, that's my team symbol. It changes the team, and which also changes the culture if you're not intentional about it. So could you give us those two perspectives, an inside one and an outside one? Because you've had both.
Yeah. What's interesting about what you just said there is like, it changes the culture. And I think someone could almost make an argument that like, no matter how aligned, and obviously it depends on where that person is inside of the organization you just brought in, but that's that's going to be my lesson learned, is like, no matter what,
you can't do it.
It will, no matter what, it will change. Cause like the honest truth, here's what happens is that when companies say they have core values, especially if we'll call it a first generation company, which is like it's still founder led and founder driven. The core values of that organization or enterprise are really the core values of the founder. And generally speaking, like you will never find someone that matches 100%, because the only person that matches 100% is a duplicate of yourself. And so you constantly have a reshaping of the culture as you move on. But the intentionality that you just brought up is critically important. And, my last company, there were people that would pull me aside and they'd be like, hey, did we join a cult? Like, am I part of a cult? Because we would jump on the Friday calls. There's 150 of us. And we would say, what's our core values? And we would like chant to them. We would do some rah-rahs on a Zoom. And then people would be like, dude, we're in a cult. And that's not it. That's us being intentional about making sure that people understand the core values, and like we would give examples of the core values. So I think I've totally lost the question, but how do
you keep it? Because with the Hunter Killer, you grew.
Yeah,
and that's a 55 mil company. I don't care how many employees you have. That's a lot of revenue, which means there's a lot of cash flowing around. And now you're on the outside looking in, and you're getting a call from Acme Brick CEO and says, "Hey, I need to hire a new VP of revenue."
Yeah. And that's like, I would say a lot of our like trials and tribulations from Hunt a Killer, like we bring those and also Alana's experience to our clients. So like we had a client last week that was not operating on a business operating system. And so the first thing that I did was jump on a flight, went down to Houston and sat with him for 48 hours. And we really started to put some of this architecture together. Because to your point, like it has to be intentional. And so those are things that we're looking for is like, we can't get a good placement into an organization if an organization doesn't understand what the core values are that they have. To the intentionality, it's not just about having them written down or putting them on the wall for people to like, hit every time they go through the doors. It has to be something that is reinforced and reinforced consistently. And reinforcement can be everybody's chanting it on a Friday Zoom call. But like we looked at different ways. One of those ways was we would reinforce through either bonuses or some sort of a gift card or something like that, where like we would say, you're getting this because of this core value and this core value aligned with this decision or this action that you took. And that's always been a big thing in core values. I was trying to think if there's anything else. I'll pause there, but core values are like the most important part to finding the right human to bring into the organization.
I want to shift gears back, talking about the whole idea of, like if you want to hire somebody, you want to find somebody with a job because it shows they're successful, success breeds success, all that stuff we were talking about. What do you make of? And actually, I got a story I want to tell with this. I saw a news thing the other day about this company, I guess it's a business in Japan that basically is like a fake business where you don't like for these rich kids who don't have a job and don't want to go get a job and they go and they're paying like $1,500 a month or something to go sit at this fake job and take pictures and be like, look, I'm a travel agent. Like it's this hilarious idea there.
Nice.
That being said, Ryan, as you're talking about like you have to have a job to get a job, do we need to start that company in America so that we can show people how good they are and then get them these other jobs? Or what's the piece of advice there? Because I think there's an interesting piece of like if I don't have a job, but now it's a non-starter. What do you make of that?
Yeah, we as a society, like we have very real challenge. So I'll be honest with you on this one. I don't have the answer, but I will tell you that like we have some really big challenges coming up right now because essentially there's two things that are happening. When the United States lost industry, it happened in front of all of our eyes, right? Because 60s, 70s, 80s, what we started seeing is that, that t-shirt that used to be made in the USA, now it's made in China. Like now all these automobiles are coming over from Japan and Korea. Like we saw industry leave and I think we were eyes wide open. What I don't think people are paying attention to right now is all of the entry-level jobs that are going near shore and offshore, and then also the redundancies that are being picked up by AI. And it's because like companies don't have to share. Private companies don't have to share how they're employing or who they're employing or things like that. So for instance, like when Nike's probably I'm trying to think, but like when an apparel company changed their manufacturing, you could see it. When all these other companies are changing to nearshore and offshore, unless you're on the phone with like a customer service agent, you're like, this isn't American. Like you have no idea. And I will tell you, kind of being a little pseudo in this industry, there are tens of thousands of jobs that are going nearshore and offshore right now, right under our nose. So long-winded, I don't have an answer to this, but this is a very real problem. And like, Cam, do you have kids?
Yeah,
it's a little personal. Okay, so like this is like you and I are going to have to solve this problem because like our kids' future is at stake here, and that's a problem, right? Because like right now it's all about maybe medium level or mid level jobs and like higher level, but we're not funneling anybody else into the lower level jobs, and so they're not getting that experience to grow and build. So. Mm-hmm. I don't have a good answer, but this is going to be.
I was just going to say, and then you add that variable into that math problem when you're looking at college and those kind of things. All right, I guess you got to be a plumber. Sorry, Clint.
Yeah, well, that's so funny. I mean, that's exactly what I told. So, like, we turned down some roles. Like, we've turned down airplane mechanics, and my cousin just got picked up for an airplane mechanic school, and he's gonna go kill it. And that's the conversations that I've been having with my son. Is like. you can pick something where you solve any problem. So business or other things where you can kind of piece together just general things, or you need to go do trade, because this whole idea of like going and becoming an accountant or going and doing this, I just don't think it's going to be here.
No, there's a whole lot in the mix, and I'm a proponent of micro and his dirty jobs and his scholarships for the trades, and huge supporter of that. And I won't go down the university hole.
Can I add one fun fact, or not a sad fact? I guess I heard that one of the worst degrees apparently has turned out to be computer science, because that all just got washed by AI, and they have like one of the lowest employment rates out of school. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah. Don't try to predict the future, folks.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Well, and also don't pay $100,000 for your degree because it makes you feel good to be a philosophy major and expect that you're going to get $150,000 paying job right out of college. Yeah. Go hoop in one hand and shit in the other and see what you get.
And that's like dirty jobs. I think the energy sector, I think that's going to be a big one. I think infrastructure. I think maybe some of like the hardware components and like how we connect all of these things. But like go to school to be a developer today. Like doesn't sound like a very smart thing.
Oh yeah.
No. Man, I had one and now I lost it, Camden. Where'd it go? I'm looking at my
your segue
notes.
or what you learned?
What? No, neither. It was a. I can always have a segue, you know that. But it was to do with people and taking care of people. But now I don't remember it, so we'll just have to have you back. That's the easy thing. Add them to that list, Camden. The mystical.
Yes, sir.
Ryan returns list, because what I did learn, and it's so simple, and Camden and I are doing some restructuring on how we offer what I do or what we do. Jeez, what we do, that was weird. What we do, and it's so simple. Framework. It's. And folks, if you don't know what that means, then give me a call tomorrow morning. Okay, just pick up the phone and dial, because if you don't have a framework for your vision or your business, then why are you hiring somebody?
Yep.
You're hiring somebody because the last guy quit, and you got to refill that position because he quit. Well, maybe there's something else going on there, buddy. So yeah, that's what I learned. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, I think, Ryan, when we were talking about like the damage to the culture of if you should, stress the employees, overwork a bit versus hiring too early. And I think the way you painted that of it's like the stress of the overwork and of going through that sprint and how hard that'll be on the team is so much better of an alternative than hiring a bunch of people and then having to fire everybody, because that would just completely destroy the culture. So I think that's an interesting piece, because the short-term pain is I got to take care of them. Look, they're stressed, they're overworked. We got to give them time with their families, all that kind of stuff, and that's real. But in the big picture, that might not be the best choice. I thought that was a really interesting piece.
Ryan, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
Oh, geez. Now it's
go ahead and use the one you already said. That's all right.
I have to use that one because it's the first time I've ever heard it, and it's already got me thinking. And it's this notion of no matter how intentional you are with culture, no matter how intentional you are with core values, it's always going to shapeshift, evolve. Not a lot, but it's like this whole idea of nobody's going to be 100% of the core values, because that would just be a replica of yourself. And so there has to be some, I don't want to say flexibility, because like there's certain things you absolutely wouldn't flex on, but there is going to be change whenever you bring someone new into the organization. And so eyes wide open. But that was great. Thank you for that, Otis.
Yeah. Well, and that's, truthfully, in a shameless plug, as you have driven me to, I'm blaming you for this, Ryan. That's one of the things we teach about building your team here at Tribe and Purpose, and it's a continuous process. So whether you've just done it for the first time or you've done it for the 100th time, every time you do it, your team is different, and your culture evolves, your team evolves, and as Heraclitus said, no man steps in the same river twice because he is no longer the same man, nor is it the same river. It is the one Stoic quote that I can actually remember. So I never get to use that. I'm very.
I was going to say culture is alive. I think that's good for a T-shirt.
There you go. Ryan, man, how do folks find you, learn more about Talent Harbor, and get in touch with you?
Yeah, perfect. So it's very simple. Usually I'd be like, oh, you go here, email here, call here. But we made it so dead simple, which is it's talentharbor.com/Ryan. And all of my contact information is there, LinkedIn, email. So if you want to get a hold of me, it's talentharbor.com/Ryan.
Love that, man. Great job on that. Bonus points for doing that. Yeah, Ryan, I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun having you here today. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I learned so much on this call, so I appreciate it.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Ryan Hogan, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass it along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes is available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again. We'll see y'all next time.